I'm Edwin Warfield, the publisher of City Biz, and I'm honored today to interview Ashok Kamal, who's the executive director and co-fund manager of the NuFund Venture Group, and Serhat Pala, who is the president of the NuFund Venture Group. Welcome, gentlemen.
Nice to be here.
Serhat, tell us a bit more about NuFund and what makes NuFund special.
How much time do we have? I'm a little partial, as you can imagine, but I think I can start with the fact that what makes NuFund different is its rich history in venture investing. It started in 1997 as an angel investor group, but over the years, it has perfected the model of investment and over time progressed from being a traditional angel investor network to a pioneer of a new investment method, which is a venture fund that is managed by its investors. It is very unique in the sense that at NuFund we were able to bring both of the best worlds of angel investing and venture funding, where our members, being very active angel investors with vast expertise, they care about the founders. They have a founder-like mentality that is founder fair, but at the same time, we operate with a proper venture fund that makes the investment decisions in a seamless, rapid way, and able to utilize the vast expertise that our members have across many different industries and verticals.
Ashok, what sets NuFund apart from the other funds out there?
Well, I think NuFund is the best of both worlds. So on the one hand, you have the VC venture fund model, which allows us to write big checks, say $500,000 at a time and relatively quickly. While on the other hand, you have this bench of angel investors who are willing to get their hands dirty when called upon. So we don't want to interfere with our CEOs and portfolio companies, but the deep experience and expertise within our group allows us to be available and accessible and helpful. Many of the members of NuFund are entrepreneurs in their background, so we can appreciate the work of founders, and we're able to be supportive in ways that arm's length investors might not necessarily be in the typical syndicate or venture fund. So NuFund is a hybrid model, and that makes us very unique.
And what does it mean to be founder fair?
To me, founder fair means you're transparent first and foremost. So you want to set the expectations for founders up front, knowing that they're doing a very difficult job, and fundraising is a job in and of itself. So giving founders a sense of the size of checks that you write, the timing to a decision, the post-funding process, and how you can be available after funding. The transparency is really important because the biggest gripe that a lot of founders have with investors is that they either are non-communicative or even worse, they are not clear in their direction. So you want to be transparent first and foremost. I think beyond that, being founder fair means that you are available when the founders need you. We appreciate the entrepreneur's time. And for us, when we partner with the very best entrepreneurs, and that's who we want to invest in, and that's sort of your job as a venture investor, is to find the best companies to invest in, not the ones that necessarily need the money the most. We know that it's hard. Being a successful investor is hard. The historical returns of venture funds make that very evident. But nothing is harder than being a founder. And many of us, like Serhat and myself, have been founders in multiple instances, and we try to bring that entrepreneurial empathy into all of our work at NuFund.
And Ashok, how did you come up with the annual fund model?
So I've been with NuFund for 7 years now. Time flies in the entrepreneurial universe. It's like dog years. Sometimes it feels like 50. But when I first came in, NuFund, which then was called Tech Coast Angels San Diego, was a chapter of the Tech Coast Angels Angel Network, which still exists today. And Tech Coast Angels San Diego was operating as more of a classic angel group model writing individual checks into companies, and the process wasn't necessarily very prescriptive, and it took longer than it needed to, and sometimes it was a bridge to nowhere. These are classic angel group problems. So when we developed the annual fund model, which is responsible for the majority, not all, but the majority of our investment activity in dollars today, we wanted to create a structure that was beneficial and rewarding for our two key stakeholder groups. So on the one hand, first and foremost, the founders. And the annual fund is a single cap table entry of a check ranging from usually $250,000 to $500,000 in size. And there's very clear parameters for how to raise money from our fund and when you're going to do it. So it's beneficial to founders and therefore hopefully helps us attract the best founders. On the other hand, our other key stakeholder group, our members or the investors, we wanted to have a on-ramp to angel investing where you could develop a diverse portfolio without necessarily needing to invest 25, 50, $100,000 into individual companies. So the fund is unique because it allows angel investors, some of whom are new in our group and join us every year with each annual vintage, to get diverse exposure into some of the best angel deals for as little as $10,000 a year. That's the minimum ticket size for the fund. The average is about 30,000, and the range has been 10,000 to 300,000. So our annual fund creates diversity for our angel investor members and clarity and conviction for our founders in our investments.
So, Serhat, in the new world where many new technologies converge and innovation is so hard to predict, how are investor groups like NuFund staying relevant and compete with the venture capital firms?
Yeah, we are in fact living through some interesting times. I think probably since the industrial revolution, there has not been a time where so many different technologies and converging and coming into our lives and changing the way we live and we work. You got public blockchains, you got genomics, you got energy storage, robotics, and at the end, the one that probably brings them all together with a multiplier effect, artificial intelligence. It is extremely difficult for investor groups, all kinds of them, venture capital, angel investor, and whatnot, to be able to unpack some of the deals that they encounter because the technologies are so much intertwined. In that sense, NuFund does have a major advantage because we are by far the largest venture group out there with 350 members and growing rapidly nationwide. And our membership base is composed of about 40% former operators, founders, and about 40% of our member base have some industrial expertise. I mean, we got inventors with more than 250 patents issued under their names. We have from oncology to DNA sequencing. We have engineers and academicians that have worked in various sized companies. So when we get to talk to founders and try to unpack the validation, try to validate the technology infrastructure of a deal, in our group, we have at least 3 people that know that industry, know that technology much likely more than the founders themselves. And we have a process that we put together over the years where we are able to take all these expertise and marry that with an institutional venture fund, risk analysis, and then be able to make investment decisions together. And plus, having this multifaceted expertise in our member base, it allows us to have knowledge transfer. Put together webinars, panels among our member group, and as our members encounter development in certain technological technologies, they are able to share that know-how and create ways we can all as curious investors learn these new emerging technologies.
And so, what kind of support does NuFund provide to the startups in its portfolio beyond capital contributions?
Like Ashok said, we are a founder fair organization, and founder fair means being ready when the founder wants us to help, having resources and network that we can provide the founder, but do not get in the way of the founder because the founders are like they have the hardest job. Um, eh, within our 350 member base, we have about 20% family offices, venture capital firms that have direct expertise in venture investing. I think we still have about 25% of our member base that are either active or recently retired executives that worked in Fortune 1000 companies in different industries, which brings both the small startup mentality together with a large, Fortune 1000 type corporate mentality. And then there's the added benefit of having different networks that are tied to these members that we can make it possible for our, portfolio company founders to tap into if they want to.
And so, what metrics or KPIs does NuFund use to evaluate the success of its investments?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's ROI. And, as an investor, you have to be squarely focused on ROI as your primary objective. If you're not, it's like being a chef and not being focused on cooking world-class food. You're not going to be in business for long. So for us, that's always at the top of our agenda, and we fared well. So if you look at NuFund's 20-year history, even as part of Tech Coast Angels, it's generated competitive returns, within its peers, angel groups, small VCs, and we've become highly competitive in the last 6 or 7 years with the launch of the annual fund, where now we're hopefully in the top 10, 20% of those same peers, including VCs. And we've already returned our first annual fund back 1x in cash, which is a significant accomplishment, particularly in this market when many venture groups are just focused on cash preservation or cash recovery. We're returning capital, and the fund still has hopefully 5, 6+ years, just that vintage to go. So returns are very important to us. I think similarly and related, the net promoter score for the founders that we back is also really important. And the more that the founders you work with appreciate you, whether you invest a little, whether you invest a lot, or whether you don't invest at all, but they're still willing to make connections, refer you to other great founders. You have a reputation that you, again, respect their time and that you're clear and transparent in your communication. That hopefully will lead to the best returns. So I think ROI and founder reputation are highly tied together, and we strive to be doing a good job in both.
So, Serhat, what motivates NuFund investors to support startups and how they can stay relevant?
We have recently done a survey to our membership base, which we regularly do to keep our one of the two important stakeholders, our member base, and ask them like what motivates them, because about 40% of our members investing is primarily what they do. 20% of them, that's their professional job. Uh, eh, but what truly drives with the founder fair mentality that venture and the NuFund Venture Group has, our member base, we found out is to be able to interact with similar mindset individuals that are investors, that are curious, that are trying to keep up to date with the different technologies, different developments in the market, and then beyond the ROI KPI, also have a pay it forward mentality when it comes to supporting the founders. We love founders. Most of us were founders at some point. Even though investing is what we do, and many of us do are LPs in many other venture funds. But the NuFund Venture Group's model enables us to be available to founders when they need us and have a more direct impact that we can provide them when they have specific asks that we can support with.
And so, what are NuFund's long-term goals and visions for the next 5 to 10 years?
Uh, we want this model. This model works. This model works for the investors. This model works for the founders. And we are going through interesting times. Not just necessarily how the venture capital industry, has evolved in the last couple of years with how the public markets are and the economy, but also with the converging technologies, how it became harder to be an early stage investor and easier to become a founder. So we believe our venture fund model is a model that works for investors and founders. We are continuously helping other angel investor groups that want to go through this transition to improve their model as well. So we see ourselves as the driver of that change in the overall startup ecosystem. And also, what we plan to do is to create more direct bridges between the early investors across different startup ecosystems, from East Coast to West Coast. Right now, as you might know, I mean, when you talk about venture capital, you have Silicon Valley, you have New York, and pretty much everywhere else. And if you're a founder that comes from a place that is not Silicon Valley or New York, you have a disadvantage to come over. But as early stage investors, with the virtualization of the workplace, now this is a perfect time for early investor groups like us to use models like NuFund Venture Group and create bridges that we can utilize for founders elsewhere.
Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and may the capital flows and may the liquidity events be more frequent than you have in the future. And thank you for your time. And angel investing is always a noble goal. So thank you for your pursuing your noble goal.